Sultan is an Arabic word meaning strength, authority, or rulership, used as the title of rulers who claimed almost full sovereignty without claiming the overall caliphate. Where a caliph is an Islamic political leader considered a religious successor to the Prophet Muhammad, a sultan is closer to what we think of as a king or a powerful governor of a province within the caliphate, but the title still carries religious significance. The Arabian Nights is a collection of Middle Eastern folk tales compiled in Arabic during the Islamic Golden Age from the 8th to the 14th century, which trace their roots back to ancient Arabic, Persian, Indian, Greek, Turkish, and Jewish folklore. The main story is about an ancient Iranian or Aryan king that ruled in India and China that was shocked to discover that his wife had been unfaithful, and so he had her killed. In his bitterness and grief, he begins to marry a succession of virgins, a new one each day, only to execute each one the next morning, before she has a chance to dishonor him. This goes on until there are no more virgins left, so the Sultan's advisor, whose job it was to provide the virgins, offers his own daughter as the next bride. On the night of their marriage, she begins to tell the Sultan a tale, but it does not end. This makes him curious about how the story ends, and thus he postpones her execution in order to hear the conclusion. This goes on for 1,001 nights. There are different versions that all have different individual detailed endings, but they all end with the Sultan eventually giving his wife a pardon and sparing her life.
This was a time of wealthy and powerful rulers, a time of magnificent palaces, of desert fortresses, kasbahs, and harems. A time when Arabic culture dominated vast areas of the ancient world. The opening pages of the Arabian Nights tell of a mythical king or sultan who was so angered to discover that his wife had been unfaithful to him that he had her put to death. Fearing further sexual betrayals by any of his future wives, the Sultan decided to marry a virgin each day, take his new bride to bed, and then have her beheaded the following morning. For years, the carnage of marriage and murder continued. Eventually, few eligible young maidens remained alive in the Sultan's kingdom. The nation's highest government official, the vizier, could no longer find any women to take the deadly marriage vows with the Sultan. All had already succumbed to his bloody decree. All, that is, except one. She was the vizier's own beloved daughter, a beautiful young woman by the name of Scheherazade. With no choice but to remain loyal to his Sultan, the vizier reluctantly introduces Scheherazade to him. The Sultan willingly accepts his lovely new bride, sealing her fate. It is here that the Arabian Nights surprises its readers with the first of many unexpected turns. For the text reveals that Scheherazade devises a plan that may save her life. After hours of passionate lovemaking, Scheherazade playfully asks the Sultan if he would like to hear a story. Always ready for a little diversionary entertainment, he agrees. And so Scheherazade begins to weave her spell. She starts to tell him a fable of high adventure and intrigue. By sunrise, the Sultan is still engrossed in the tale. Scheherazade has captured his unremitting attention. Clearly, she is a uniquely gifted storyteller. But with the dawn must come her fate. In accordance with the Sultan's decree, she must now die. Yet it is at this crucial point that Scheherazade surprisingly breaks the cruel cycle of fate which seems to await her. By not quite finishing her story, she leaves the Sultan begging for more. But royal duties call. He cannot hear the rest of her adventurous yarn now. The sentence will be postponed. Tonight, she must conclude her tale. That evening, when Scheherazade finishes her story, she immediately begins another, drawing on characters from the original plot. Amazingly, her royal husband again spares her life so that he may hear the continuation of the tale on the following night. The clever device of having one story grow out of the previous one continues for an uncanny 1,001 nights. Eventually, the Sultan abolishes the law calling for the death of his wife. It is a phenomenal accomplishment, assuring Scheherazade of her life and finally freeing the nation from the terrible decree. For this, the name of Scheherazade would echo through the centuries. Through Scheherazade, the Western world was introduced to some of the best-loved adventure stories of all time. Many have become classics and are as popular now as when they were first told. Set in locations as diverse as India, Egypt, China, Persia, and Africa, the tales in the Arabian Nights contain a rich assortment of larger-than-life characters who often struggle against immense odds. Mythological beasts and monsters, supernatural beings, magical objects, and feats of great courage are peppered throughout the stories. Many of them have a moral underpinning, containing a profound message of hope. But who was Scheherazade, the extraordinary woman of whom so little is known? Was she merely the daughter of a sultan's vizier who lived in some long-forgotten corner of Arabia over 1,000 years ago? Or, as some believe, was she herself as fictitious as the characters she described in her stories? We may never know the answer to the riddle of Scheherazade's true identity. But if she was merely another character conjured up by the real author of the Arabian Nights, who was responsible for the stories? And where did the ideas come from? Did the original writer possess one of history's most imaginative minds? Or were the tales based on real events from a long-gone era? The Arabian Nights tells us that the young bride Scheherazade enthralls her royal husband, the Sultan, for 1,001 nights with her remarkable talent as a storyteller. Yet scholars now believe that the Arabian Nights did not stem from one source, but from many. However, someone must have compiled the stories. Whoever it was is believed to have lived in Baghdad around the 8th or 9th centuries. Whatever their mysterious origin, the stories that have journeyed down to us through the centuries have firmly established themselves as some of the best-loved tales in literature.
The reason there's no authorship to the Arabian Nights is because there are very ancient stories which come from a time before Islam existed. Where Islam is given credit by most modern academics for developing high levels of art, architecture, mathematics, science, and poetry, the truth is that these disciplines existed as part of a now forgotten and suppressed Aryan Empire, which Islam conquered and integrated into itself. In other words, these stories were not created by Islam, but miraculously survived through the ages despite Islam, which in actuality destroyed some of the greatest achievements in history. That said, some of the people that were converted to Islam, always by force and threat of death, somehow managed to salvage bits and pieces of the prior conquered civilization, much in the same way that alchemists in Europe managed to salvage ancient knowledge from the destructive forces of the Inquisition through veiled subjects such as alchemy. Much of the pre-Islamic spiritual and mystical knowledge was concealed in Sufism and disguised in esoteric symbolism. My name is Robert Sepehr. I'm an anthropologist. You can find my published work on Amazon. There should be a link in the description to my Patreon as well, where you can make a donation if you'd like to support my work. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking. Don't forget to subscribe. And please leave me your thoughts in the comments section. I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you again soon.